Let's talk this morning about intentional thrift. First off, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, and I'm not a normal guy. In fact, I'm sometimes so cheap that I will simplify everything around me until it's to the most basics, yet amplifies the quality of life that I have. So let me explain what I mean by that. I tend to buy all my clothing except for suits and ties, formal wear. I tend to buy it all from Goodwill. I go to thrift stores. I love vintage clothing in the sense that it's high quality clothing. It's made out of natural materials. Wool sweaters, for example, last a long time. But I don't tend to buy clothing except for maybe once or twice a year. Now, in the last 2 or 3 years, I've gotten into mending. So I'd much rather repair existing clothing than go buy new clothing. So in this simplification and focus on the what I want from the clothing, or what is the value I like to have from the clothing. I want it to be long lasting. I want it to be warm. I want it to be durable. I want it to be appropriate to the situation. Like, so for example, when I'm working out in the garden, I'm wearing coveralls because that's durable and everything. And it's 20 years old coveralls that are working just fine. But in that simplification, I've gotten to the point where now in the house, I prefer to wear what this is a monk samu. It's a Japanese type of, I don't know, robe, but it's like work clothes and it's very comfortable. Japanese Buddhist monks wear this outfit when they're working around well, I would say dojo, but it's not a dojo. It's the temple. But I have a martial arts background and I enjoy the style and the comfort. And so I've, through this transition, simplified to inside wear and outside wear. Inside wear that's simple, all natural fiber. I could wash it in a bucket if I had to. And so this is just an example of intentional thrift, but I want to warn you up front. It seems unusual to the outside world. Without all the context of having martial arts experience, actually, I had considered becoming a monk or a priest, all the way down the line of things. Some people might think this is cultural appropriation. I'm obviously not Japanese, but I do have a lot of experience with Japanese and Chinese culture through Okinawan style martial arts. And we studied history and we studied the practical use of farm implements as weapons. And it was a passion that I continue today as part of my health routine. And so that has influenced where I'm at today. But again, this podcast is more about that you don't have to explain this to anybody, but that there is a methodology to go from rampant consumerism where you have to buy the latest clothes because the other clothes had failed and fallen apart, or to this knowledge of knowing that polyester is plastic and even you can't use lint anymore because lint is full of microplastics. Other than a fire starter, but even then it's probably not the best thing. To help you understand that this evolution of simplicity, this evolution of minimalism, this evolution of downsizing and reducing the necessity to maintain external goods and giving yourself time to maintain internal value is a good and natural thing. Now, the sooner you can realize that yourself, that your mind, that your health, that your well-being trumps every physical thing you might have, except maybe food, shelter, and water. But even then, if you have health and you have wisdom, that you should be able to get those things quite easily. Now, in the modern world, money makes the world go around, they say, but money is simply a medium of exchange. So what if we could do more with less money? What if we could have a lifestyle that was full of social experiences and watching sunsets and creating memories with your family, walking your own land and knowing that you have that land producing for you as you are a steward of that land. Imagine the emotional payoff there. Is that worth more than money? See, people pay for fancy vacations. They pay to go to survival sites and sleep on the ground. They go camping and hiking and arduous labor, knowing, of course, that they can leave it at any time and return to the modern world. But ultimately, they pay big money for that. What if your everyday was like other people's vacations? And I've been accused of that because essentially the way my brain works is I do care about what other people say about me, but ultimately I'm still going to do whatever I want to do. And so the underlying thing is if I want to dress in a robe, or I want to experiment with clothing and different traditional clothing, and I want to, because I have a couple kilts, for example. If I want to make my own clothes or mend my own clothes, it really is nobody's business but my own. But does it have purpose in my life? Does it deliver value in my life? And I would say it does, because while experiencing new things, I discovered new opportunities. So this morning I did a real short video on preparing chili peppers to dry. Well, in the past, I never would have thought to dehydrate chili peppers. I might end up with a big bucket of them after a good growing season. And I've pickled peppers before. I've fermented them. So you can pickle peppers with vinegar and water, a little bit of salt, or you can use a saline solution and lacto-ferment the peppers, or you can dehydrate the peppers and turn them into chili flake, or turn them into chili powder, or you can slice them up. And and again, the evolution of that for me is that I used to go buy dried goods because you can make some interesting dishes with dried goods. So are there ways in your life where you can, rather than going out and buying something, can have an experience or a sharing of doing it yourself? For example, the garden can be a wonderful family activity. Are there places in your life where you are maybe too quick to spend money when another solution would be more fulfilling? Now, again, this intentional thrift journey that I'm bringing you guys on, I'm literally selling everything I've got and going to live in a tent. Now, I'm not going to live in a tent for the rest of my life necessarily, but I have learned by accepting the possibility of living in a tent that there are many cultures that live in tents all their life, and their tents are very, it's home. Home doesn't have to be a certain type of building that fits in a certain type of community, that fits in a certain type of social construct. It can literally be anything you want. Do you want a smaller home? Do you want an off-grid cabin? Do you want to live in a wall tent? A lot of folks are afraid to take these steps because it's easy to see someone else do it, and it's easy to think about it and imagine it. But I'll tell you, it's not that easy to sell all your stuff. So I've been doing the intentional thrift for a little while, which literally for the last 5 years, maybe, I have not purchased clothing other than for specific work use. So I purchased a couple pairs of overalls, or for formal wear, for example. So if I needed my suit jackets were a little small, so I went to Goodwill and got a bigger suit jacket, because either the suit jackets are shrinking in the closet or I'm getting a little meatier. But my point being is that my life hasn't changed. In fact, I've got a surplus of t-shirts. And so instead of throwing them out or giving them away, I keep the shirts that fit, and the shirts that don't fit get passed along. But I've actually even taken some shirts down and used them for mending, because growing up as a kid, I used to sew, and it was enjoyable. And now as an adult, I might sit in front of a show and just um, there's a couple shows that I'll watch, and I'll sew with them on the show, and I'll just be smiling away, because it's, again, slows everything down and helps work on the mental internal rather than this external world. Now, there's nothing wrong with the external world. You really do need to keep it clean, keep it maintained, keep your environment around you curated to serve your needs, rather than the world around you demanding upon you, or telling you that you're less than, or telling that you've got to do certain things to fit in. You don't have to do any of that. And so as you're coming along with me on this journey of intentional thrift, I want you to think about the things in your life that you don't really need or have any use for. And those things could be people, places, or things. In my case, it's stuff that maybe it got packed up and I got a little behind on it, and then I got frustrated with. It might be better just to hire somebody to take care of that. And I'm looking at filing here, by the way. There's like filing up. And I don't know if you noticed, but my seat keeps going down too. It's not a perfect thing, but it's fulfilling. So, do you want to wear weird clothes? Well, those clothes are not weird in the context in which you decide to use them or to wear them. Do you want to mend and learn how to sew and create things rather than to consume things? Do you want to walk in a garden that is supporting nature through beneficial insects, and has beautiful birds and exciting little connections every time you walk through it? That mindfulness, and we've talked about the walking meditations, but the mindfulness of walking by the shore and just letting those worries go away, meditating, relaxing, stretching, whether it's yoga or whether it's martial arts or whether it's just, you know, getting that muscle loosened up and getting that feeling of just, wow, there are muscles back there that I didn't use sitting on my ass 40 hours a week. One of the most powerful things about this, and we talk about the social construct around influence, is that you'll start to realize that working 40 hours a week, maintaining your yard a certain way, living in certain neighborhoods, doing certain things is more about someone else's power than your power. Do you really need to mow your grass? Well, teenage kid down the street can mow the grass if you like a nice cropped yard, but mowing it 2 inches off the ground actually is detrimental to the grass and causes it to require more fertilizer, more feed and seed, more over dressing, or even a landscaper. Where if you mow it at 3 or 4 inches, you get better airflow in the grass. The grass is healthier. The grass roots are deeper, and you have less work. And we talk about that in our year-round green program. But the reinforcement of the landscaping approach and the ordinances around that and all that infrastructure around that is because there's a mindset that you have to have it a certain way, because they don't understand the cycle of beneficial insects, the cycle of bird migrations, the cycle of pollinating, catching rainwater and soaking it into the ground rather than running it off and pushing it away. And because they do this, they reinforce a system that benefits commercial interests rather than your interests. Now, again, I don't have any problem with commercial interests, but I believe there should be a mutual and reciprocal value exchange, and buying industrial waste to put on your yard, which essentially chemical fertilizer is industrial waste, is not the best solution. Compost, biodynamics, or other types of biofertilizers, worm castings, making sure that the pH level's right in the soil. There are so many things you can do on your own that take less time or the same amount of time as having someone else come by, and very often are more environmentally friendly, conservative in the sense of, maintained soil fertility and health, and very often reduces some of the other side effects that feed another industry. So to be fair, many of these industries, especially the pharmaceutical industry, the industrial food industry, they profit when you're sick. They profit when you waste food. And we can stop that again by looking internally, by observing our own interactions. It doesn't matter what somebody else does. The government isn't going to fix this for you. It's what can we do in our own lives and our own intention in order to live a more prosperous life, in order to live in an environment that is better and more healthy for you, in order to gain the fresh air that we desire so much, and in order to live the vacation and the blessed life that many people will sacrifice everything for. Why does it make sense to so many people to work extra hours to gain overtime and to gain extra income so that they can then take a vacation and not work? Why does it make sense to work harder to work less? Why can't we just work more efficiently and work on more things that have high value returns? The permaculture ethic: low inputs, high outputs. But the outputs don't damage the potential for future outputs. And then even the outputs become the inputs, and the whole energy cycle goes on. We're going to talk about the energy cycles and how to do an energy audit later. But let's audit our own energy. Are we buying things for the experience rather than the need? Are we not getting the best and most efficient value out of those things that we have? Are we afraid to try things that are best practices in other cultures because we're concerned we're going to be judged or that someone's going to cancel us for cultural appropriation? I don't have to give you my monk credentials to look like a monk. Monks don't necessarily have beards except in some sects, in some Anyway, life is too complex to be worried about all those details. And so what can we do again? And so what I am proposing in this intentional thrift concept, which I will practice first and teach you by example, is that we are to be mindful of our bodies and our emotions and our feelings to make ourselves the best we can be first. And then through that, be good stewards to the land that we share. and be good stewards to the immediate environment of our home, or the immediate environment of our land or our community, and then ultimately see how we can produce more with less rather than taking the shortcut. Now, again, the siren song of easy is still there. I could move to a city and live in an apartment, but I think at this point I would be emotionally stressed because I'm not interacting with the beautiful flowers. I've got some pictures that I'm going to try to get up on the website, that are just explosions of wildflowers, even in the cooler season. And then during the main warmer spring season, the flowers and the colors and the vibrations of that bird song and that fresh air is a natural high that you cannot buy. And once you experience it, you start to realize that we can not make do with less, but we can actually gain more with less, because we're, again, more efficient about our usage, and we're reducing things that are harmful, and we're experiencing that cup of tea on the porch in the morning and just breathing in the fresh air, and there's nobody on our back rushing us. There's no commute to worry about. And we cover ways to generate income, because a lot of you guys are concerned about income. But what if you didn't have the need for the income long before retirement? Because that's a realization in retirement, is that when you don't have any money in the bank because you haven't been able to save any money because you spent all the money on trinkets, that what if we could have that retirement lifestyle now? What if we could have that enjoyment, social interaction, and that peace and that blessing to yourself and others and that community? What if you could have that right now? What if there's so many things that are sometimes projected upon you that are distracting you from solitude, from peace, blessing, connection with your creator? Now, if you'd like me to explore this more in another episode, please visit us at www.prosperityhomestead.org, and then go to the contact page with your questions. We also have free newsletter and things for folks that want to go into a little bit more depth. But I would like to explore beyond permaculture as a mechanism for actually regenerative permaculture. Just basically, how can we live better with nature in order to produce more of what is valuable to nature and what is valuable to us as a component of nature, rather than humans as a separate entity, um, ruling nature or conforming nature or even fighting each other? How can we be more peaceful, more harmonious among our food, among our shelter, and among our experiences, so that we all live better lives, so we can bring and be blessings to others? Again, if you'd like me to explore that more, please send your questions to www.prosperityhomestead.org. I'm Justin Hitt, and that particular website helps homeowners and property owners basically homestead in 12 months or less. Very often starting where you are today. You don't even need to own land, but I'd like to see you on 5 acres or more, really having that retreat experience every day. Now, people are going to be jealous and it's going to be awkward, but again, that introspection that we talked about here in today's podcast can start revealing to you the mindful path to that enlightenment, which is emotionally stronger, physically stronger, mentally stronger. And that's the blessing I'd like to be able to bring to you. So again, thank you for being a part of this podcast. Be sure to share it with your friends. Be sure to like and subscribe. Get engaged in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And then ultimately, have a wonderful day. And again, let's get the most from that land while being ecologically sustainable, economically sustainable, and environmentally sustainable, and know the difference. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.